Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the last call. I am Punk Rock Ian, and that is Gabe
I'm Gabe. In the dark.
in the dark. We are we're a little tired. We're a little grouchy today. But god damn it, we are present.
I love presents, to be
Well,
honest.
yeah. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Wednesday if there is a such thing. Uh I apologize for anybody that was looking forward to the punch out yesterday and today. Well, today I wasn't going to be able to do it anyway, but yesterday I'm going out of town for for the whole Super Bowl weekend. I'm leaving tomorrow morning to go to my dad's house, so I had shit to do. But we did get into it on Monday, and I was actually kind of surprised how not rusty I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I made it to Tyson. And I was like, all right.
You-
I mean, I lost to Tyson, but I made it to Tyson.
when we get ready to do a workout, we do what they call a shakeout run. Shake the cobwebs out. Sir, you didn't even have to shake the cobwebs out, and you made it all the way to Tyson. Losing to Tyson after not playing the game for a while, that's just good, man.
Mhm. Well, I lost the first time I got to Macho Man, but then when I played him again, I beat him. But then I was having trouble with him for some reason. But uh, yeah, no, I was like, okay, this isn't gonna be too bad. Not too bad at all. But other than that, like I said, I'm going out of town, go hang out with Pops for a little bit, watch some Super Bowls, do that whole fun thing. What do you got? You've had anything interesting happen, sir?
Um, Other than continuous migraines, which is not particularly interesting. It's a little bit of a bitch, but not too much. We've been doing the James Bondathon, which has been fun.
I know Unfavored fucking messaged me the other day, and he's like, these movies. I don't know if he's ever actually watched. I mean, I know he's watched some of the later ones, obviously, but I don't think he's watched many, or if any, of the like older ones, especially the Sean Connery ones. But he was just like, dude, these movies are wild.
I'm thinking that everybody's going to end up thinking the same thing I did after we get through with the Roger Moore ones and realize that they're not that bad. They're a little goofy, but you kind of have to take into account that the way On Her Majesty's Secret Service ended, and I know that there was another Sean Connery movie after that, but the tone was already like we have to lighten up because the end of On Her Majesty. Spoiler alert, I guess. I think everybody you were watching it, weren't you?
Yeah.
So, spoiler alert for the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Bond gets married. Bond is driving away from the wedding, and Bond's wife gets shot in the driver's seat. And the movie just ends with him repeating something to her that is very heartbreaking in his arms, and then the credits roll. It's like the biggest downbeat ending I've ever seen on a James Bond movie.
I can honestly say that I never knew that that happened until I saw it.
And
It's crazy. You know, I'm like the only excuse I could give a scene like that. Now I can't. This was was this one of the weird ones, the ones that like count but don't count.
no, it counts.
Okay. Oh
It's
yeah,
just
Her Majesty's Secret Service. You said right.
yeah, that one counts.
Okay. Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
Say
That one
Never
counts.
Again doesn't count,
Right. So
but it should.
okay. So then it stands. So the only thing that I can think of is if they were just like, we need to show why Bond doesn't ever just settle down with one person. Like, we need to show him why. And they're like, well, let's give him brutal honesty.
Well, and I think that's great because that keeps in I think that keeps in tone with some of the books too. Which if you've never read a Bond book, oh man, that's a good summer read with a drink in your hand. But
I was always very happy because there's not too many. I mean, there are a few, but there aren't too many famous Ians out there. Ian Fleming is definitely one of them. And I was like, no shit, Ian Fleming and Ian created Bond. I'm down with that.
at his GoldenEye estate in Jamaica, like that is
I've seen
Uh,
photos of that place and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what a fucking pimp. Like it's not extravagant. I mean, it's nice. It's very, very nice. But it's not like, pimped out. You know what I mean? It's not like the dude was just like throwing money around. Like he literally just wanted like a nice away from everything place.
and I think he, like, yeah, like you're saying, it's not like huge or anything, but it is like a nice little. Would villa qualify? It's not
Yeah,
quite a
like
villa, but it kind of is.
I mean, it's bigger than a house. It's not like a shack. It's an estate, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't call it a mansion.
yeah. It's like it would be comfortable enough. You could have a party with about 20 people in it
Hmm.
comfortably,
Hmm.
and you'd have plenty of land to walk out on. That's the best part is the view of it, I think.
Yeah.
But a view to a kill, if you may. But yeah, I was talking to Chandler about that, and he was like, "Well, the tone changed in Diamonds Are Forever," and I was like, "Directly because of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the tone had to change because it went in that direction." So the more movies are a little bit goofier, but "Live and Let Die" as a theme song, that's pretty baller. It's good. It's good
Now
hit.
I've done I've done a I've done a secret service for you if I can throw my own pun in there.
Oh, oh,
There's a certain I want to make sure that I have the correct name here. In terms of actor. That's gonna put
that's fine.
movies.
There we go. I'm fighting off migraine for our
Oh,
audience,
yeah.
and that's why I'm sitting in the dark. I'm
Okay, it,
probably
it it
sweating.
was it was the correct name. I for some reason I felt like this is like not a real name. This is like a soap opera name. Now, there's a particular set of Bond films that I have never seen, and I'm saving it for when we watch them. And that's the
Okay.
Timothy Dalton ones. Now I know what to expect, so I'm not going in completely blind. But in terms of like sitting down, I'm like, all right, let me digest this. Never done it. I've watched a lot. I've watched all the Sean Connerys. I've watched some of the Roger Moores, all the Pierce Brosnans, because that's who Bond was when I was as far back as
Sure.
I can remember. I'm not a big. I like Daniel Craig to a certain extent as an actor. As Bond, though, was never really my cup of tea. And
I
you know what? I think it might just be because they're not singular stories. It might not even be him.
Yeah, they don't run. Well, technically, okay. So this is where it gets a little weird.
Lucy.
Lucy, welcome. Glad you're feeling up to coming to hang out with us this evening as we talk some James Bond. Um, License to Kill with Timothy Dalton directly references On Her Majesty's Secret Service, so there is a little
Oh
bit
shit.
of overarch because Timothy Dalton is the reason that you have gritty Daniel Craig Bond because his Bond is a little bit ruthless. Like in Doctor No, remember when Sean Connery kills the assassin dude, he was like, "That was your Smith and Wesson. You had your six," and then he just shoots him like 5 times. So imagine that, but for a full 2 hour long James Bond movie twice. Like
Nice.
he's a gentleman, but he will cut your throat if needed. And I think that was why he's my second favorite Bond that isn't Sean Connery. Like, and for good reason. He only had 2 movies. The third movie he was supposed to do eventually became Goldeneye, but apparently the story was a little bit different, and I would have really liked to know what that was. But yeah, I knowing
I
that you haven't seen those,
yeah.
it makes me sad, but it also makes me happy because you're gonna get to see them for the first time in full HD, and they're gonna look and sound great.
Did you ever see the clip where Sean Connery's being interviewed by Barbara Walters and he's talking about slapping women?
Yes, and I've read the Playboy interview too.
uh I'm not going to comment whether I agree or disagree with them. For the most part, I wholeheartedly disagree with any type of violence towards women. Not saying that it's never necessary. If the bitch is coming at you with a knife, you can punch her. But, you know, very few circumstances would require such action. Other than that, I'm pretty much against all violence on women. Um,
Violence begets violence is your point there. If
yeah,
it's coming at you, then the
I don't
kid's
care.
gloves come
I
off.
don't care what you are, bear, dog, man, woman. I'm kicking you.
And just remember, and why, we never talked about why I don't like the thought of knife fighting. There's a reason that the police say I think you have to have I think it's 35, 30 yard. Is it 30 yards between you and the person? Because they can close the gap so fast that you cannot draw your weapon on them, and defending against knife attacks is basically
Surviving
seen in
edged
Hot
weapons.
Fuzz. Yeah, seen in Hot Fuzz where they stab Simon Pegg and the Santa Claus.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happens
yeah.
if they close the gap fast.
But no, the only reason I brought that up is just because I just I love it. It shows the character of Sean Connery, where regardless if you agree or disagree with what he's saying in the context in which he's referring to at the time is also very important. Um, but I love that he doesn't back down.
Yeah,
Like she tried to like make it a thing, and he was just like, "No, I said what I said."
I said what I said.
Yes, and it's just like, God damn. But no, I like Sean Connery. I think the first thing I ever saw him in was that third Indiana Jones. So like my idea of him is just always old Connery. So
Yeah.
when I see him as young, it's always a treat. I know I went and I saw that fucking League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie, but
The movie that made him quit acting.
that was his last role.
That was his last role, specifically because of that movie, not because he thought it was a good note to end on. He just said, "If I ever have to go through this shit again, that's it for the old boy."
That makes sense. Um, so a couple of tidbits of news, I guess, before we get into the main thing. First and foremost, I don't know if you heard, I immediately wanted to send you a message once I saw it, but then I got too caught up in trying to like look at updates on the situation. But thankfully, the tragedy did have a happy ending. Uh, the man, the myth, the legend, Jerry the King Lawler, did suffer they're not saying it's a stroke, but it sounds like a fucking stroke.
They used they described all of the symptoms without saying stroke.
Yeah. But he had a stroke. Somebody who lived nearby that like knows him and hangs out with him, just saw him like face down in his yard and immediately went to go fucking help him. They rushed him to the emergency room. But apparently the surgery went well. The last I saw or I read is that he still didn't have feeling in his right side of his body, and he was having a lot of difficulty speaking. But I think who was it? Because there was somebody else. There was Ric Flair that was posting updates about something. And then who else did I? There was somebody current from Raw. I don't know who, but I forget exactly. But they said that they called him today. Oh, it was JR. What the fuck? JR, not current. That's right, JR. I wanted to know what he had to say. Uh he's JR said that he called him and that while he was still having trouble speaking, JR said he's like, I could understand what he was saying. So that sounds like he's recovering.
And JR would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is good. Wow. Okay. I actually that as weird as it sounds, that actually makes me feel a lot better because
If JR says he's okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
JR
because
has the inside story.
last time I saw anything from JR, I'm like, bro, you're about to lose that foot.
About to lose that announcer job if you keep referring to the talent by their WWE name in AEW. But actually, no, they wouldn't fire him over that. I do think that's kind of hilarious.
Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention, this is more, well, not to say that fucking somebody having a stroke isn't real world. It's most definitely real world. But, if you are somebody that pays attention to world news, I'm sure you all heard about the crazy, horrific earthquake that happened in Turkey, which is just awful. Um, I every day or every hour I go in and I see that number going up, and I'm just like, fuck. Um, the reason I wanted to mention it was, did you hear the story about the baby?
No.
Don't worry, this kind of has a happy ending. Not the best ending, but not a bad ending.
Okay.
You know me. I wouldn't bring up a kid's story if it had a bad ending.
Well, yeah, we would be past this conversation
Yeah,
already.
yeah. You know me specifically in my rules with kids. I don't bring up a kid story unless it has a reasonable ending at best. Um, but I guess this apartment building, a very tall apartment building, amongst many other buildings, obviously collapsed. And if I remember what they said correctly, yeah, there was a woman trapped under the rubble who was pregnant, and while under the rubble gave birth.
No.
And now the mother did not survive, obviously. Uh, but they found the baby, and the baby's alive and doing great.
That's a miracle.
And while that is a horrible situation, I was trying to think of there is there any positives that can come out of this? And I started thinking, and I'm like, there is. And I'm like, now, while I would never wish this upon anybody, and as tragic it is, I would much rather it never happen at all, obviously. But if it had to happen, you talk about a damn good origin story, minus the parents dying, of course. But if you're gonna go with an origin story, you know, like if this kid becomes a superhero or a villain, either way, you got a good origin story.
It's justified either way. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. You know. But that's just me trying to make a little light out of the
I
situation. But
I think you just described the plot of Age of Ultron in a little bit of a way there. And you know what? That's fine.
that's fun.
I think in out of tragedy, yeah.
Tragedy. Yep.
I I think in moments of very bad things, especially natural disasters where you can't
You
point
can't
the
do shit
blame.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, can't point the blame to anybody, but in moments like that, you kind of have to have gallows humor. I'm very pro gallows humor because what gets you out of a dark time better than a dark joke that makes light of the situation that you're in. And I appreciated it, Ian. I didn't think you were going to
Mhm.
go there, but I appreciated it nonetheless.
I'll tell you what one thing out of it though, that this is the main reason that I love the superhero genre as much as I do. I make fun of myself equally, but
Sure.
when we get down to the core of it, there's something about the ideal presentation of right and wrong, and somewhere in the middle there's justice, I guess, for lack of a better term,
Hmm.
or a good story. It's people doing good things because it's the right thing to do, not because it's like, this will get me more likes. And it's like people who didn't want to answer the call have to answer the call. The most unprepared person, but yet that's the absolute right person.
It's a burden, but
Mm.
also a complicated
Right.
burden.
And it's very rare. And the reason I like all of that so much is because you never really see real life examples of it. I mean, you see small scale things, but nothing that you're just like, fuck yeah about. And I will say that out of this, while I was watching all of the tragedy and the numbers climbing, thankfully, and what really put a smile on my face and a little tear in the eye, I won't lie, they cut to the airport at Istanbul. they had to hold people back from trying to get on planes to go help and dig people out. There was that airport was jam packed on inside, outside, people wanting to go help. And I was just like, that's fucking awesome, right there. You don't see shit like I hate that it's always this shit that you see. Like it's because of this, you know what I mean? Like it's only this that you ever see stuff like that. Like, like on regardless of your opinions on 9/11, da 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 political wise, watching everybody fucking come together for that moment in time was fucking awesome.
The 9/11
So,
effect. I was actually going to bring that up because you can't deny that the country that we're all residing in right now, not everybody in the audience, but me and you, the the state of how people
exactly.
treated each other for probably like 6 months. There were some outlier cases I'm not going to get into, just
Yeah.
again political, but where people were being pieces of shit. But for the most part, like 6 months after that, I don't think I've ever seen a country come together close enough to sing "Kumbaya" like that. And we were, and it came at the price of a tragedy that you could point the finger at person or persons for, but it's sad that at this point in time, as humanity has gone on as long as it has, is that it takes things like that for people to answer the call of duty to be good people,
Hmm.
and that it doesn't always stay. And the the price of not being a piece of shit is a very low cost, and yeah, that one hurts a little bit.
Yeah. But it was cool to see that. And good luck. I hope all of those people get there to help, and I hope that the recovery, while I'm sure it will not be quick by any means by the amount of destruction I saw, I
Mm-hmm.
hope that they're able to restore some sense of sanity. But while all the emotion and good feelings about that are 100% true, let's get back to some dick and fart jokes. Um,
I'm glad you brought that up because dick and fart jokes aplenty.
yeah.
We talk superheroes, and I always have to remind that this channel was founded on a giant blue dick joke from Watchmen.
Yep. Speaking of, I don't really have a whole lot of superhero news this week. We are still officially on Lobo watch for Jason Momoa.
Yep.
So that still stands. Um, yeah, that's really all I got for that. But so I want to get into the main thing here tonight, and I'm gonna tell you, sir. Now I told you what I wanted to talk about before the show in
Yeah.
terms of just what the topic was. Let me explain how this topic came about. So I was perusing, watching some shows, doing the things that I do, doing research and whatnot, and it I missed the announcement, but apparently a couple days ago, or I don't know how exactly when they announced it, but uh, I think they said it's greenlit. I don't want to say that it is if it isn't, but because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they announced that they were going to do a prequel series to Dexter. And I was confused because I was just like, I think you covered everything with the flashbacks with his dad, Papa Raiden, if you will. Um, as I like to call him, because he was, what was his name? He was the,
Uh,
the the original Raiden in the first Mortal Kombat movie. Was that Lambert?
oh,
Christopher
yeah,
Lambert?
Christopher Lambert. Yeah,
Yeah.
Highlander.
Yeah. Highlander, yes. Um, but yeah, I was just like, I'm like, like we had plenty of flashbacks with you and Papa Raiden as a kid, like coming into your own about that. I don't really think we need a dedicated series. Although, I mean, if you're getting Papa Raiden, I'm always down to fucking see him. Um, but no, apparently, I think what the idea is that it's a prequel series that has nothing to do with Dexter directly, and it's like I believe we talked about him not too long ago. His name, fuck, what was his? John Lithgow,
Yeah,
his character.
scary John Lithgow.
So their series would be like it would show his origin.
Hmm.
And then like other killers you've met in the main series, you would see their origins. And I'm like, it's not a bad idea, but I'm like, it's not the best idea. Now, to be fair, I watched all of the original Dexter. I'd never watched the new series where it's like it takes place. It's the sequel series. I think it's called New Blood or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, I never watched it. Now, I'm not a. There are a lot of people that kind of disliked how Dexter ended. Um,
So I've heard.
uh, Oddly enough, I don't like the circumstances around the final season in terms of like, because like if you've never watched Dexter and you want the non-spoiler version, basically Dexter is a serial killer that's also a crime scene, a blood splatter analyst. And pretty much the premise for every season is it's him being a serial killer versus another serial killer.
It's
And
like
it's
Celebrity Deathmatch, and
yeah,
it's great.
at one point in the season they always collide, and then the next season they just introduce a new killer for him to deal with. Um I didn't like the killer for the last season. Like I thought all that shit was stupid, but the final scene in the final episode, which a lot of people didn't like, I'm kind of an introverted person and all into self-loathing and pain and shit like that anyway. So I'm like, I understand what they were going for in this scene, and I fucking dig it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. But I haven't seen any of the newer stuff.
Yeah.
After you see me. Um, but it got me thinking specifically about horror movie prequels in general.
Yeah.
And it made me think of one of the worst. Now, this wasn't, I wouldn't say necessarily a full hardcore horror movie. But definitely it's in the wheelhouse. It's in its own subgenre. Um, but it made me think of and this may be one of the worst movies I've seen, period. Not just in the genre. Um, but it was I believe it was called Hannibal Rising,
Yep.
and it was the prequel to Hannibal Lecter. And I went into the theater to go see because I've watched all of the Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, fucking Hannibal,
Manhunter.
Manhunter, yes. Um, like I like it. I like all that shit. It's fucking great. And then so I was like, of course I'm gonna go fucking see Hannibal Rising. This is gonna be awesome. And I just sat there like, what the fuck is this the whole time? And I'm like, at what point did Hannibal Lecter decide to become a ninja with his Asian aunt that he's also banging?
So it's like a Alabama version of Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alabama.
And I'm just sitting there. I, I might torture myself and rewatch it again just to try to grasp it. But I just I kind of understood where they were going with the introduction of his introduction to cannibalism. Like I'm like, okay, like that's something that needed to be introduced through tragedy, and they do that. Um, hey, I'm from West Virginia now.
And that's a damn good song.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't. I always make fun of the fact that I'm from West Virginia. Don't, it's fine.
I love the song though. I'm just saying the song's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay.
No, yeah. Yeah, but I couldn't fathom that movie. And so I decided I'm like, let's talk a little horror prequel movie action today. I have another list. It's not a top 10. It's just ones that it's just mentioning horror prequel movies, and I'm like, okay. Are there any before I get into the list? Are there any horror prequels that jump out to you that were particularly either really good or really bad? I think, well, no, they're not doing a prequel to The Exorcist. They're just flat out remaking The Exorcist, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're remaking. I think they did do a prequel to that. They did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre prequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, or Leatherface, the one that came out in 2016, because they've done two. They're both awful.
Like 4 or 5 of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yeah.
movies are origin stories.
You think the timeline for Halloween's hard to follow? Jesus Christ! Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I don't think has a comprehensive timeline. Jeepers Creepers 3, I've heard that same thing, that it's particularly awful. What the pattern is, though, is that they are particularly awful. Night of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary Edition's a prime example of taking a movie that was already good and putting extra scenes in. It basically explains the guy in the graveyard, which I think you didn't need.
You didn't need that.
But John Russo did it anyway, and it is... Let me just say... You know when they say something's critically panned, it typically means that the Fallout logo pops up and it says everybody hated that. That's Night of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary Edition. I do not know a single person in my travels on this earth, as long as I've been here, that I've met that have said, you know, I actually think it's pretty good, and I honestly prefer it to the original. I'm pretty sure if you'd say that in Pittsburgh, you will get the shit kicked out of you.
I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think the problem with with the prequels, and now it's different. It's pretty good actually.
I'm glad we're not in Pittsburgh, I guess.
I don't think that this problem per se is so much an issue for horror movie origins, because your take, for the most part, generically speaking, you know, I mean, we could split hairs over specific movies at another time, but
Sure.
Generically speaking, with a horror movie origin prequel like that, you're just taking a horror or something from another movie that didn't really have an explanation anyway, for better or for worse, just didn't have an explanation, and you're just giving it an explanation. It doesn't affect the first movie, really.
Yep.
Except it fills in some of the surrounding areas, maybe. Now, I know a lot of the things that people have been complaining about, and I fully agree with it, is like, if I can bring up Obi-Wan Kenobi again, the show.
Go for it.
You're never, no matter how bad the scenario is, you are never worried that Obi-Wan's going to die, because you know he doesn't.
It takes the danger out of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I believe you run into that problem more so with other movies outside of the horror genre. Like, you could still run into, like I said, if we're splitting hairs going individual movie, I'm sure there are plenty of horror movies that run into that issue as well. I just think that it's less prevalent in that category. Probably, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I think it would be easier.
Yeah.
If you're not working with like specific characters, like if you're just working with an entity, that's completely different than like a specific character. Like, it's like doing a prequel to Die Hard. Like, you know nothing's going to happen to McClane because there's all those movies afterwards.
To bring up Star Wars, it's like Rogue One.
Yeah.
And that's I know some people hate it, and I know some people love it. But Rogue One's a great example of doing a prequel in the middle of a timeline, nonetheless, with characters that you are, I think only one's a recurring character, and that's, shit.
Oh, Cassian.
Yeah.
The dude, right? Yeah, because he's in Andor.
Yep. Well, and that takes it to a different turn too, because that actually wasn't who I was referring to. I was talking about Forrest Whitaker's character, who was on the Rebel show. So
he's also in the first one, not the new one that's coming out, but the Jedi Fallen Order game.
Yeah,
he's in the first one.
Okay, so you've that's really your only point of reference. But if you're not deep into the lore, you get some surprises out of that.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have hit the nail on the head, though, because a lot of the danger is taken out of it whenever they do it with horror characters. That's why if you do it with, say, a Jason, you do it with an antagonist and not a protagonist, you do open up yourself to a lot more, because I don't really want to see the story of Annie from the. I think her name was Annie in the first one, because I know what happens to her at the beginning of the second one,
Hmm.
and I know that she survives the first movie. Therefore, her character arc is done as far as I'm concerned. I don't need anything. I don't need anything in the background for it. Michael Myers is an exception to that, though, because I don't want to know anything about him. Because that's the point of the character. That's the mystique of the character, is that why does Michael do what he does? If you start showing bits of his childhood, Rob Zombie's Halloween, you take out some of that stuff because you've tried to humanize him and give him a little bit too much to work with. It makes his actions somewhat excusable. Leatherface, though, they just fucked it up.
I'm glad you brought up Myers, just because that's the perfect. Because like I said, I was one of those people. Like I said, I've stated it before. I used to hate my least favorite character, maybe of all time, at one point in time in my life, just because I was just like, there's nothing to him. Because I am, as I've mentioned before, a lore whore, and there's nothing
Sure.
to go off of. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's pointless. I'm like, he's just evil, and I'm like, that's so stupid. But then as I like actually really got into it, and I was like, no, actually, that's the best part about him, is that it's just like the mystery about it of being pure evil. And then yeah, as it humanized him, I was just like, no. And then
No,
because I really liked that first Rob Zombie one when it came out, but the more times I watch it, and it's not it's not Rob Zombie hate. I've made it a point to not hate on Rob Zombie, but that first, like, I it doesn't work. Like, if it's House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, that style works. When you're taking Michael Myers, I'm like, this. I thought it worked, but no.
and I'm gonna reiterate one thing about it. Um, for the for Rob Zombie's ability to film a movie, it, no disrespect to the guy's filmmaking ability. It was the content that kind of killed it.
Yeah,
Um,
it wasn't the
but
right project for him.
no, if they had been doing a Last House on the Left remake, and the way that movie the way the original Halloween movie looks, if you take that and then go look at the original Last House on the Left, it has the same grit to it almost. Like it's there for it. He needs to do grindhouse stuff.
Let me throw a random. This just popped in my head. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because you brought up last. Because I mentioned, I'm like, that's not the right project for him. Then you mentioned Last House on. I'm like, that actually could work. I get where you're going. Now let me ask you this. Now it may not work, but I'm just the idea. What if they did a Cannibal Holocaust Rob Zombie style?
Kind of got that with Eli Roth's
That's what
Green Inferno.
as I was saying, and I'm like, well, we did have Green Inferno,
but but
but it's not his wife though. It's
Eli
not
Roth
Sherry Moon.
Eli Roth is more satirical, which is what Cannibal Holocaust was. We did a whole thing on it, on how it's poking fun at things, and that one it was poking fun at social justice warriors that do things for clout, which I think is a hilarious plot to use, and it paid off at the end. Rob Zombies I think, would lean more towards Umberto Lenzi's Cannibal Ferox than
I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, that annoying bitch that we hate at the end that survived, and I'm like, that would be Sherry Moon.
that Sherry Moon. Yeah,
Would be her. And I'm not throwing shade at her. The last two things I just said about her, I'm like, I mean, I didn't care much for the Halloween movies, but I don't despise her. I think that she is excellent as Baby.
yeah. Well, I think she does a great job in the roles that she gets, given the sort of the context of them. Even in the Halloween movies, I think she was.
I liked her in the first one, like, even though, I mean, like I said, I disliked the humanization of Myers. Like I said, I thought I wanted it, but I realized I didn't. Despite all of that, I did not like at all what they turned it into in the second one. But like, the mom's struggle in that situation, where, like, if you're taking the franchise out of it and you're looking at it as an individual movie that's not connected to anything else, and I'm like, that's actually an interesting angle, and I like what she's doing in this situation. You know, of course, like I said, they fucked it all up in the second one, but
and and that you know, the second one will have a mysterious place in my heart because I get it, but at the same time I wish they had gone a different route. But you know, if he did something like that, if he if he did a Cannibal Ferox or a Cannibal Apocalypse, I actually like that one, the John Saxon one, the
Oh yeah.
yeah, or Cannibals in the Streets, whatever you want to call it. You know, if he did something like that, oh, he would knock that out of the park. And I think that's what most people are. They don't get it. Rob Zombie is a grindhouse exploitation director that's living in an era of the comic book movie, and even
He's being judged like he's like a Spielberg, like he's trying to be a Spielberg. I'm like, he's not that director. He doesn't want to be that director.
no, and
He,
honestly,
but
who
everybody acts like he
does?
is.
Yeah, and no, and to be fair, I really do feel like nobody really wants to be that type of director because you don't get to do the necessarily like super fun projects like the
Yeah.
wild shit. Like without the grindhouse directors, you wouldn't have your Halloweens, you wouldn't have Escape from New York. You know, I just listed off Carpenter, but let's go another route. You won't have your Day of the Dead. You wouldn't have your Nightmare on Elm Streets. You wouldn't have your Serpent in the Rainbows. You wouldn't have Suspiria. You wouldn't have any of the stuff that, and those are just big name titles. And I'm not even going to get into, you know, Strange Vice and Mrs. Ward, American Rickshaw. You wouldn't have the fun stuff like that. The original Inglourious Bastards. I mean, I can do this all day, but you know, you wouldn't have that kind of stuff if all of the directors looked at themselves like a Spielberg, because you don't have to be that to develop your own style. You know, Tarantino, love him or hate him, same sort of deal. He does a lot of the what I would call classic style directing, and then it's put out at a time where all of the directors feel like they have to have such polish on their stuff. But then you look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and you're like, my God, you know, it's a movie without a plot. It's 3 hours of no plot, and it all works. Why? Because you are drawn into the content of the movie, and you don't have to deal with, you know, silly things like plot. We don't need a plot to move it along. The closest thing to a plot in that is Rick Dalton is going to get acting roles. That's it. That and it and you watch it with a smile on your face, and then when you get to that twist ending, that is still one of the greatest middle fingers to a criminal I've ever seen. It kind of leaves you a little bit melancholy and sad because you really wish that life would have worked out like that. And you
I
know,
wish that
that's thoughtful.
he one thing that I know that Tarantino has said that like his next like big original thing is going to be like it for him. I don't think it will. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that can just sit and rest. Um,
I think he's gonna do one last movie, and
mhm.
then he's just gonna switch to miniseries and TV shows
That would be fine.
because he's already
Um,
written Bounty Law.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That just excited me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I he whether he had it in the back of his mind or not, he kind of did this twice, and I mean that in a good way, not like he's just like doing the same shit over and over again. But I wish he would kind of make that like you have your Tarantino originals, right? Like your Pulp Fictions, your Reservoir Dogs, shit like that. You have those. And then you can have the TV miniseries, all that stuff, also great. Not the actual movie Once Upon a Time, but that concept where you're taking real life situations, real characters, not always all real, but you know, Sharon Tate and all of them are real. Um, and it's just doing your spin on it. Like I said, he inadvertently I think did it twice because you know he kills Hitler and Inglorious Bastards like that, which was fucking great.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course you know Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm like I would love to see him do other moments in time like that. But do it like you know give him that twist at where it's like it's not going to be historically accurate.
Oh well, and then Django Unchained. What's her name? Is it Kerry Washington that was in that? I can't. Damn it! I have to look it up because I'm gonna feel like a heel for not knowing her name. Um, her surname is Shaft. She's the great grandmother of Shaft. The Shaft is one bad mother.
God damn, I did not know that. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, there are. Yeah, Kerry Washington. See, I'm not going crazy. I got it. But you know, like all of his movies take place in this same universe because of the events of. Well, now it's because of the events of Django, but all of his stuff takes place in the same universe because of that,
did
and they're
did
all caused
they?
by it.
I can't remember. It's been a hot minute since I like really sat down and like I've watched Django, but like I haven't. It's been a minute since I've sat down and like watched the shit around the movie. You know, like there's
Yeah.
the character, like the actors acting, but the shit around, like the settings and stuff. Did they do a Red Apple cigarette reference in Django?
I think somebody had Red Apple rolling tobacco.
Okay, okay, good. Because I know that, I know that I never noticed it until it was pointed out to me that like that's a reoccurring thing in the movies, like that brand, in
Yeah.
one way or another. And I'm just like, oh, that's fucking cool.
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if you go to the deleted scenes, because I think they said that there's like 2 hours of deleted scenes that some of it didn't even make it onto the disc. You got a old Chattanooga beer, which is the beer that they're drinking all the time, that Walton Goggins does the voiceover for. But there's another Red Apple cigarette ad too with Burt Reynolds,
Oh shit.
played by James Marsden.
Oh wait, well no, didn't. Oh no, I'm thinking of. I asked about Django. I was about to say, I'm like, didn't Leo do a commercial for them in Once Upon a Time, or wasn't there like a quick thing of or something like that?
Uh, he so DiCaprio does a Red Apple ad at the end and goes, what did he say? Great taste, low throat burn, and then the ad cuts and he goes, "Get this piece of shit
Shit.
cigarette out of my mouth." Yeah. Um,
Low
so
throat burn. I like that. That's how they have to advertise.
yeah, James Marsden. Damn, I'm on a roll tonight. Plays as Burt Reynolds in a cutscene, but it's an ad for Red Apple, and I think they replaced it out with Leo's, which I think is. I mean, ending the movie on that was kind of funny.
Hmm.
Again, movie had no plot, so I mean, your ending credits can be whatever the hell you wanted it to be. But yeah, he's got a whole universe up there and alternate history stuff that he's doing with it. You know, fuck it. Have him do a Cold War spy movie and tear down the Berlin Wall himself. Like if that's if his 10th movie takes place in 1989, I mean, did you watch Atomic Blonde?
No, I've heard about it though.
Okay, we need to watch that because it's one of the best spy movies I've ever seen, but it accurately asterisk to a point describes Berlin during the Cold War, because if you know nothing about the Cold War, Berlin was where it was like Spy City because you had East and West,
Hmm.
and the Stasi could go over the wall, and you know Americans would go over the wall all the time too. But they were spying on each other and doing all sorts of heinous shit in Berlin from like the mid 70s, late 70s to until the wall fell down. There's a whole history there that is untapped as far as I'm concerned, and Atomic Blonde's like the closest we've got to something that, yeah, it's not completely accurate, but the aesthetic of it is all over it. If a movie starts with New Order's Blue Monday playing,
Oh yeah.
I'm there already because I'd love me some New Order. But
Now,
that
real quick, you want to know what the best way to spy on somebody when there's a wall in between you in 1989?
how's that?
Use a balloon. Little cheap joke. Little.
Little cheap topical reference that I'm gonna, as I eat my sub later tonight, I'm gonna be like, oh, you.
That was a dad joke.
That
And
was
I was like,
that
that was a bad dad joke too, because that wasn't even funny. I mean, bad jokes aren't supposed to be funny, but like funny bad.
No,
But
no, I got a little chuckle there. I got a little chuckle there.
yeah. Well, okay, there you go. A father figure joke. I like that. There you go. That's a better way of putting it.
See, you know what, Ian? I hit my one of my training classes with two dad jokes in a row in about a 1 minute period, and I know they were hating me today. So you know what? That's fine.
That's
That's fine.
fine. Um, I want to run down some of these movies on the list here. This
Go
one,
for it.
this one, I'm going to be interested to hear what you have to say because I'm sure that you've seen at least one movie in this line of series. I had to stop and look at myself in the mirror and be like, "Oh my God, have you not seen a single one of these movies?" And I was like, "You know what? There's a reason why I haven't seen any of these movies." And it's because I know everything about the real life incident because I've watched every documentary, every footage that like I don't need a movie version of this. But apparently Amityville 2 was a prequel. And I'm like, I know everything that there is to know about Amityville and I'm like, I never actually watched one of the movies because I'm like, you know what? I already know what happens.
Is two's about the DeFeo family, right? And
if
then
it's
the
a
first one's
if it's a prequel, then it would I would hope it's about that family.
okay. Okay. Fun fact: the first two Amityville movies they're about the only passable ones. Fourth one I think is good. The Dollhouse I think is that one's good, but
I was surprised to see that later on that Ryan Reynolds was in one. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know that.
he was in the remake. But anything prior to and after that's probably not really that recommended. I'll put it to you this way: Full Moon, I think, has taken over the Amityville.
That's all you
thing.
had to say. No, I'm
And
not
the last
shitting on
one's
Full
in
Moon, but
space.
I'm not shitting on Full Moon because there's a lot of gold in there, but it's
You know what
that
you're getting.
that gold comes in a certain shape.
It looks like boobs and cocaine,
No, no.
and that's your Full Moon pictures.
Mhm.
But the last Amityville movie, they put the house in space. The whole fucking house is in space.
So like what was that fucking movie that we
The end of
watched?
Bad Taste.
Yes, yes, the fucking Lord of the Peter Jackson's movie. Yes.
Yeah. Lucy watched the first two, and then maybe watch 3D, and then the next two are, I think, within the passable range. But then after that, if you're not in a Colorado state of mind, you probably won't like them. And that's direct words from someone who was in a Colorado state of mind at the time they were watching them to me. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, there we go.
The next one on this list, I chuckled because now, like I had said, that Hannibal Rising might have been the worst prequel I'd ever seen, and I had to wrestle because there was another one on my list of maybe the worst, and this is the next one. But I still think Hannibal Rising was more infuriating for me to watch, because at least with this movie being 100% nonsensical, it was pretty to look at. So I'll at least give it that.
Okay.
Prometheus, the prequel to Alien.
I'm fine with that one. I like Prometheus, and I like Alien Covenant.
I only watched Alien Covenant I think once, so I don't want to give an opinion on it because I watched it when it was new, and it felt like I didn't know my lore properly when I was watching that movie because I was just like, I'm so confused, but it looks kind of cool.
I think that's what lulled me in, was that I was a little bit lost on the lore as well. And then repeated viewings, I'm like, I'm starting to get it. Like, not all of it's there, but I'm starting to get it. But at the very least, it looks good. The movie sounds good. If anything, if I can give any credit I'm sorry, not to all of the Alien movies. Aliens, Alien 3, either cut, and then Prometheus and Alien Covenant. The atmosphere that it throws you into is enough to get you immersed. And I don't think, I don't think I break out of it that easy. Like, if I'm sitting there watching it intently, yeah, that's
it the two things that I remember the most about Prometheus, which there's one aspect where I know what it was that bothered me, but I can't remember exactly why it bothered me. but there was the machine that she had to get in to take the fucking xenomorph out of her or whatever because she
Mm-hmm.
was impregnated by it.
The Dead
And
Space machine.
yeah, and it was just like it I I vaguely remember there being something about like it was like the machine wasn't there for like a practical purpose. It was like somebody had collected it or something like that. And that while it was a medical thing, like there's a male version and a female version, and I think that she had the wrong one, but she made it work something stupid. Like I remember there being like, oh, I don't know which version. I'm like, why should that fucking matter?
Because one, if you're not careful, it'll rip your dick off.
Yeah. Um, but then the main thing that I remember was like I was sitting. I think I even saw it with my mom. I can't remember, but like I was in the theater watching it, and the scene where the woman's running and the circular ship is chasing after her. I'm like, you can go left or right and be perfectly fine, or if you just keep running forward, you're fucked. And that's what she decided to do.
Yeah, that's kind of unforgivable with
And
that
I'm
one.
sitting here and I'm like, and she's a scientist?
Book smart, not street smart. Well, you know what? I maybe we can justify it. Maybe if she ran to the right, the fear was that the thing was gonna belly up on the other side of her. But at that point, can't you just, you ever done suicides in gym class where you have to, run, or what do they call them now? I think they call them end to ends or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, just turn that agility on and go the other way if it starts tipping that way.
Yeah.
The pacer test. See, it's 55 fucking names. And I don't know. Maybe because I forgot. You probably shouldn't call them suicides anymore.
um, the next one, I don't believe I've seen this one. I've seen other movies in this series. The was it 2017's Annabelle Creation. Now, I've only watched now that I think about it, it may have been this one that I saw. I don't know how up to date you are with the Annabelle series or not. I just remember there being one where it roughly started. It was like old timey. I mean, there were still cars and shit. Well, maybe it wasn't old timey. I don't know, but it was a flashback, and there was a car, and something about like a kid wandering into the road, and it fucking pissed me off. And something about like a boarding house for like these people were just like adopting girls. And I don't. It was fucking weird. I don't know. But then like Annabelle gets thrown in.
I've never seen them. Oh God. Okay. Yeah. That sounds not great.
No, like I think the only reason now these aren't directed by Sam. Okay, I don't know if he had for some reason I always want to attribute the Annabelle stuff to fucking James Wan. Did he have anything to do with the original setups of that? Because it really feels like some shit that he did. It
I
like
think
it fit it aesthetically
Insidious.
and everything.
Fever's coming back. Okay. Uh, did he do Annabelle?
He didn't do Annabelle Creation. It was the director for that was David Sandberg. But
Oh, he produced it. He produced it.
okay. All right. Yeah, it felt like I've seen I James Wan's horror movies to me are hit or miss. Like I like some of the Conjuring stuff. The later ones get a little silly, but it's still kind of fun. Um but his movies to me are the evolution of what we went through in the early 2000s with horror, like The Grudge and shit like that. Except I like he does it better. I'm not saying that they're great movies, but they're I'm like, all right, this is a step in the right direction. I can get down with some of this shit. It's like, you still got your annoying jump scares like every couple minutes, but he slightly cuts it down and adds a little bit more story.
He tries to play with your fear emotions a lot by setting the mood to get you thinking that you're only going to get jump scares with him. And I think that's what carries you through a lot of his movies is thinking
Hmm.
that you're going to get jump scared even when you're not. Except Malignant, which was
I
his
still need
attempt.
to. I need to watch that. I've seen a lot of clip. Well, I've seen the clip where she's fucking kicking ass. um, but yeah, I need. It's in my mind to watch that.
Uh,
Um,
it's an Italian movie. That's not an Italian movie.
yeah,
If that makes you feel better,
that's how it's been described to me, and I'm like, I think I need to watch this.
you need to watch
Um,
that.
the next one on the list was Paranormal Activity 3, and I honestly, all of those movies are so jumbled in my mind. Like, I hate that I watched those movies because they're so goddamn annoying. But like, there's part of me that couldn't help myself to watch them all. uh, Honestly, anytime anybody brings up Paranormal Activity, all I can think about is the very first movie with the asshole boyfriend, who's
Yeah,
just what he's just my favorite character. I'm like, can we just have him in every movie? Like the scene when he was talking to the girl, he's like, please don't talk. You're too pretty to talk. I'm like, that's such a dick move, but I love it in a movie.
that that sounds like something the Roger Moore Bond would say to the Bond girl.
It was so bad. But I just they're all jumbled in my mind. Haunted House. Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, no. Well, you know, if Paranormal Activity had just stuck with the first one, I don't think we would probably hold it in as much disdain because
Mm-mm.
it was like it was your 2000s McPherson tape. I wouldn't even
There
call it your 2000s Blair Witch Project. I think it
Yeah.
rings
I'm
more
not
true to
even
that.
I'm not even against that style of movie. Like, I mean, I think that I don't really remember the promotion for the first one, but I think that after the original Blair Witch, like Cat was out of the bag, like, oh, okay, yeah, these aren't real. I mean, just in case, I'm sorry to burst that bubble that if you just found out that movie wasn't real. Um,
It's real to me, damn it.
yeah, I've been saying that all week. Um, but I don't know how they marketed the first Paranormal Activity, but it's like when you have a movie like that, like I said, like a paranormal investigative type documentary kind of vibe film. I like those. There are a few of that I actually really, 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 really like.
Sure.
And I'm like, there's one in particular where I'm like, I like to try to debunk the shit in my own mind. I think that's what a lot of people like to do with these movies. And there's one in particular where I'm like, all right, I can't explain that. Um, so it's like I really do like those kind of things, but when you blatantly you're like, no, this is just a movie. Like it's, I'm already out of it. Like, I'm going in knowing 99.9% that the shit is fake, but let me have that 0.1% of like false illusion. Don't just flat out 100% tell me like, oh no, this is just a fucking movie.
Uh, Ian, all right. You just actually brought up a very interesting point. So, can Cannibal Holocaust, which is technically your first found footage movie, because it puts a dramatization around the real film.
Hmm.
So it did the opposite thing. It took Allen and Company's footage. Remember that scene that they're sitting in there before they go to watch the actual movie,
Yeah.
and they're watching that Last Road to Hell documentary? That's real, and they say in the movie it's fake. And what you're looking at, you're like, damn, that's fake. That looks like real execution footage, because it was war criminals getting shot at the firing line. But then when you're given the Allen tape, the first reel that they when they first arrived to the island, your brain automatically says that that is real because of what you just saw. Like it's a weird sort of thing, and that's part of the mystique of it. So when a movie goes out of its way to say it's found footage, but they're not even gonna try, it takes the fun out of the genre. That's why the genre exists. That's why the last broadcast probably should have gotten put out wide stream or mainstream before the Blair Witch Project did, because it probably would have blown up better than the Blair Witch Project did.
like now I know that this part was real, but the part that you had mentioned where the homeboy got fucking taken to court and was like, asked about the movie,
Yeah.
like that was real. But if you were smart and trying to make a movie like that now, like, it's a little guy. Um, if you were smart, you would fake an investigation or an inquiry into something like if you were really trying to sell your movie like that, like if you go in and like there's just nothing. Like they're like, oh, these people that went missing, blah, 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 blah. But like there's no police records about anything. It's like I'm like, you didn't do your job
No,
right.
and Deodato getting sent to court, that just added to the publicity because he didn't plan on it. They thought he was about to go to jail for 4 murders. That's scary shit.
Hmm.
And you know what? I know some people say that the effects aren't that good in it. I I mean, that looks like they chopped that dude's wang doodle off, man. Like that's still painful to this day because the stuff is filmed in such a way that it doesn't draw attention to the effects necessarily. Like they're there, but there's so much going on that you're thinking that it's all part of the action, and I can totally see that. If dude who oddly enough got his wing doodle cut off in the movie hadn't have been in City of the Living Dead the next year, the NDA that they had for it probably would have stayed on. I think they had I think it was 5 years that they weren't supposed to say anything or something. Like,
Mm.
I mean, that's some serious shit.
I think the only like the most that uh
It's a Joe Bob science term.
um I think the most that the Blair Witch did in terms of trying to like help the credibility of it being true was the actors in question, like the three people that are on, that are focused in a movie. They're like, after this is made, like even before it comes out, like we after we finish like, the actual production, um, go missing. Like,
Yeah.
go somewhere. Don't talk to people. Don't be out in public. Like, at least for until they brought him out for the fucking MTV Movie Awards. That was like, eh. But and I think what really fucked with me was my brother, who I've mentioned a handful of times. He's 9 years older than me. Um, he knew somebody involved in that. Like not like as like a great friend or anything like that, but like that like an associate, like he knew through association kind of thing like that. I think he knew one of those three people somehow in a loose fitting kind of way. And when they went missing, after the production, and like he's just like he saw the movie and the dude wasn't around anymore, or I don't know, like I don't know who he knew, but whoever it was, like that person wasn't able to be contacted because they were doing their job.
Yeah.
Um, I think like for like weeks after my brother saw that movie, like he was fucked up for a hot minute. Like I mean, he's not a dumb guy. Like he's way fucking. Anyway, he's not a dumb guy. Uh, he understands how movies work and entertainment, and like he's a very knowledgeable person. And to see him get worried, I was like, I don't know if I should fucking watch this movie.
Right.
And then like I eventually saw it and I'm like, this is fucking annoying. I like the concept, but it was a hard watch. um but then of course I think years later I asked him about that. I'm like, did you ever fucking, I think it was one of the dudes, I think, yeah, it had to be one of the dudes, because I was like, did you ever like run into that person again? He's like, yeah, I fucking knocked him out.
And just think if it were the girl, you know, you could be working on her weed farm now because that's what she does.
Yeah. um so I thought
Nighttime
that
fish of the
was
year.
I thought that was a little interesting, but I feel like you got to go at it nowadays, especially nowadays. If you're really gonna try and be convincing of some shit, go that extra mile. I mean, do it legally. Don't just recklessly falsify police report. Get a hold of somebody. See what you can do legally.
Yeah, you have other I'd have to talk to our lawyer about that one, about what the legal ramifications would be of it. But like, that's why I don't think the found footage genre can really go on in this day and age, and it has to do with good taste and bad taste.
Hmm.
Because if you think about the Blair Witch Project and you really think about it, would the families of those people want you to watch the last moments of their kids' lives? No, that's horrible taste. That's
Hmm.
the closest that we have ever gotten to an actual snuff film. And by snuff film definition, it has to be a movie with paid actors. I hate that we have to get technical on these things, but they have to be paid actors and they have to actually be killed for the film. And that's the difference. That's why the people bring up the cartels and everything releasing videos. Like, those aren't snuff films, those are execution videos. That's two totally different things, and
Wasn't
both of
there
them are bad taste in general.
wasn't there I can't remember because I don't think I actually watched the movie. I just know about it. But wasn't there it was either a snuff film or it was, putting it mildly, like really bad shit happening to kids. I don't know which one it was, but hey buddy, can you tell me after I'm done? Thank you. Um I don't know if like I said, I don't know which was because I don't think I actually watched the movie. But wasn't there that Nick Cage movie, 8 millimeter?
Yeah, that
Was
one's
that
that
snuff?
was about
Is that snuff or is that bad shit happening to kids?
that's about a snuff film.
Okay.
It's like
Then that's
a
not saying that
fix.
I'm like cool with that.
Yeah, no, there are lines of bad taste that we both have that we don't like to cross, and I'm kind of the same way. I always like that John Waters quote that you have to know bad taste to have good taste. I think is sort of the dumbed down version of it.
He's
So
such
yeah,
an interesting
so
guy.
for a dude whose movies I don't particularly like
Yeah.
he knows so much. Like it's the he does his own thing.
It's the whole package. His look, his attitude, how he talks,
Yeah,
everything. Like that's somebody I'd love.
elegantly trashy is how he talks.
Somebody asked me the other day when I was doing one of my game streams, who would I want to meet, like in terms of celebrities and stuff. And I had a hard time thinking about that because a lot of the people I'd want to meet are dead. um, but and I didn't think of it at the time, but I mean I said a couple names of some people. But what I would really wanted to say was I'm like I don't want to meet people. Like I don't want to just like run into, well, hey, let's get a picture and then fucking like I want to sit down and have conversations with people.
Yeah,
That's what I prefer. Um because like I said, like I mean if I just wanted to meet people, I'd just go to cons all the time and fucking pay the $50 to get an autograph.
oh
But
yeah, sure.
but uh sitting down and be like John Water, I didn't even think about it till you mentioned, and I'm like that would be a guy that I would like to just sit down and just be like, even if you're just going to insult me for the next hour, I would love to just listen to
Yeah, I
it.
John Waters is definitely on that list. Just out of the whole, he makes movies, but he's an exploitation guy. He's like it'd be like meeting Roger Corman. I mean, meeting those two people. I mean, Roger Corman's more on the producer side and is a little bit more corporate, but even still, he got his roots in making movies in 2 days. Like, those are fascinating people that you can learn a ton from.
Next on the list, I was surprised to see this on the list, but I'm like, well, you know what? Technically, it fits. Prey, the Predator movie that just came out not too long ago.
And why did
Uh,
that one work? They focused on the villain.
yep, focused on the villain, not and I know they're working on another one. I don't I think it's set in the same time. I think we'll see that girl again. Um But I like that. Like that was probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to the Predator franchise right there because that opens up so many doors. Just everybody having like, all right, well, let's fuck it. Let's, it sat in the 90s, early 2000s, it sounded stupid. Like just the same thing as like Jason X. Well, let's just put Jason in space, but it's like with Predator, you're like, let's put Predator in medieval times. Let's put Predator in fucking samurai era fucking Japan. Let's fuck
which
it. Would be awesome.
which would be awesome, but I think the time has passed for it.
Oh yeah, already?
I think so because it has become ingrained in everybody that that's what they want. That I don't think it would live up if they made it. Like I think the
Mm.
time has passed because most of the actors that they want to play the samurai are people who are trying to move away from playing that role. Like they want other stuff because
I mean, they could always just get Tom Cruise again. He was
they
the
could
last
always
time.
he was the last samurai, yeah. But like it could work, but honestly, it would have been better to go with that to begin with than Prey. And to go further back than that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I need to see Jesus fighting the Predator. Although, see, we're entering some holy ground there, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm kind of 50-50 on it because I want to say yeah, I want to see that feudal Japan movie,
Hmm.
but on the other hand too, I'm like they're gonna they're gonna probably do some fan service with it, and I don't necessarily want a movie that's purely made just to be fan service. That just seems kind of like
Hmm.
I don't want to call it weakening the lore, but let me put it to you this way: that pistol that was given at the end, it's the same one from Predator 2.
Uh-huh.
That has to fall into the hands of a pirate at some point.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just saying, a pirate movie with the Predator, where the Predator, in the story, I believe the Predator teams up with the pirate because the pirate saved him or whatever. You're telling me we get a co-op mission with a Predator and we're pirates?
Are we gonna get Jack Sparrow versus the Predator, the Battle of the Locks?
Fuck it.
Yeah,
Do it.
Jack Sparrow versus yeah.
Fuck it. Do it. I'm fine with that. I don't want them to do something that will weaken the franchise like that. That would be like a side movie. Or fuck, that could be a mini series on its own. There's how you expand the lore. Play with the mini series. Last of Us is doing a great job with it.
Mhm. Last one on the list. And I was unaware that this was. I don't think I saw this one. I know I think you played this one a while ago. But I'm only really familiar, I believe, with the first two of these. You good? You good?
Keep going.
Set tussin.
Just
But fucking the Final Destination 5, is that a prequel? I don't really know
I don't know.
how do you do a prequel to that movie and it not just be about death? Like I know what the gimmick of that movie is, but it's like and it's cheating death. I don't understand how you do a origin to that unless like because I mean if you want to say there's an origin to it, I mean then it's the Frighteners.
I thought you were gonna say Jesus coming out of the tomb, but because he cheats
I
death.
mean
But I don't
I
think
mean
anybody's bold enough to write that damn script.
only if we can get Willem Dafoe again. The last
Okay.
temptation of Christ.
Okay. Yeah. No. I'm sold. I'm sold on that. Yeah. I don't know. I stopped watching them after the third one, I think, and which I know I'm showing my I don't like the 2000s bias pretty heavy, but there's a reason why because it wasn't very good. But yeah, I don't know a prequel to that. Also I'm gonna put this out there. Final Destination 2 was not the first movie to do the log scene. It was Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, and we got to watch it on Joe Bob. That's the first. That's the opening scene of that movie. Is the log scene from the second one. But anyway, sorry, I'm
Speaking,
losing
what
my
was it?
cool here.
This was totally fucking random too, but I don't know why this popped in my head. But what was it? The fuck was that movie that they were watching? It was one of the fucking best of the worst movies. And it was the one where he like works for like Justice Incorporated or something when they're like just ice. And he was like it was the group of renegade vigilante cops that do what needs to be done like outside the law and shit like that. The biplane movie.
Is that the one with Leo Fong in it?
No, 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 not Leo Fong. I think yeah, no, yeah, it was the biplane movie where they're on the but there's a scene in it though where oxygen tanks are being thrown off of a truck into traffic and the bad guys shooting at them and blowing them up and stuff like that. And I just watched a video where some guy had like all sorts of different types of like rifles and shit like that and he was shooting oxygen tanks and I was just like, "Oh, that's all that happens." I mean, there's still some fun shit to be had by shooting an oxygen tank, but it's not an instant bomb.
No, only if you have a Ralphus round, which has a little explosive core in it, it would probably penetrate it at the right time to actually cause a boom boom. But nobody's carrying around that kind of hardware in most movies, so that's
Yeah.
we can thank for that. I would love to be able to try to recreate one of those stunts, but I'm also batshit terrified because what if it does go off?
The only thing like there was some flame and spark but I think that's the bullet going through like causing the friction as it's entering the tank and it's the
Mm-hmm.
oxygen shooting out at the same time. So you do get some flame but it like goes out relatively quick. The only thing that it looks like is an issue is it flying around a big metal tube.
I you know I hate that because I would love to see that.
Mhm.
But again, that's also horrifying. I don't want to see that because that thing's out of control, man. It's all over
Mhm.
the place.
Mhm. Mhm. But that's all that's on that particular list. But yeah, I prequels are a tricky thing. Like you really have to have a reason and a justification, I think, to make one. Um I still haven't gotten to watch X, so I can't and I don't did Pearl come out yet or
Yeah,
Pearl's out,
Pearl's
right?
out.
Yeah, so I
It's
haven't
Maxine we're waiting on.
uh, so I need to watch both of those, you know, because that's the situation where there's a prequel, and I'm like, it seems like that was kind of made with it in mind. So like, I would like to see how that plays out. Although I've heard mostly good things about X, but then I've heard a few bad things about it, so I'm just kind of like, eh. But I
I'm gonna.
hmm?
I was just gonna paraphrase something about the prequel. I had a professor that said something along the lines of, "If your first story requires you to do a prequel to make it make sense, you didn't write a good story the first time."
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things that need to fall into place. I'm trying to think. That wasn't a prequel movie. That just had a flashback scene.
Dewey Cox, yeah, great movie.
um, speaking of Jack Sparrow, no, because I like I said, I don't particularly is both a good prequel and sequel. Oh.
Yes, it is, but I think that all came from the same book. So
But what was it? Even though, like I said, it's not a prequel, it's just a flashback scene. We brought up fucking Jack Sparrow, but I think what was it? The last one that he did, the fucking I think it was called what, Stranger Tides or whatever it was. Um, I actually kind of like that one over some of the middle ones. I don't know, but there's a scene at towards the end where it's like kind of like a flashback, and he's like young Jack Sparrow, like a kid, and like you see where he gets all those charms that fucking dangle.
mm-hmm.
And you know, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, that's a fucking good scene. I like that.
throwing nods in certain directions, I think is good. But yeah, if your story requires you to go back that far,
Yeah.
I feel like it takes away from something. Even Uncharted is guilty of that with the fourth one, and I like that game, but
Let me bring up this old rumor of a film that was supposed to be made but never ever did. And the movie that we got was not great. um I know before they made the shitty fucking reboot that they quickly abandoned. At one point, now I know that this again falls into the line of it's much easier to do a horror prequel when the focus is your antagonist, but and again, it would go into territory I'm not really comfortable with. Unless it's New Line, then New Line would fuck it up and make it goofy anyway. Um, uh, there was talks for a while that they were gonna do a Nightmare prequel where it's Freddy before he gets burned. And I'm like, that's a situation where through the lore of the movies, uh everything that happens. Like even and I even like the added shit where it's like because the initial backstory was just, somebody fucking didn't sign something the right way and blah 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 and they had to let him go legally. Like you have that base scenario. Uh but I like the shit that they talked about in I think it's the third one with the nun getting locked in over the weekend or whatever, the
yep,
bastard son of a thousand maniacs or something like that. Like
yep.
you can play off. I mean, carefully, tread lightly,
Tread very lightly. Yeah.
because I mean, not only is it gonna be a brutal scene, it's a fucking nun. Um, um, which is odd to me that his mom would be a nun. Um.
No, you know what? Nun horror is a thing. It
Yeah.
it's been and I think it was hitting its peak at the time that one came out, or at least close to the end. I think Other Hell came out around then.
I mean, shit. They again, I don't know if James Wan has a hand in it, but it looks like his kind of movie. There's the Nun series, right? Into the or series of movies. I think there's like two of them, or there's going
Yeah.
to be two. I'm not sure. um, be a nightmare to tread on with writing, directing. Yeah. Well, yes and no. If you did it tastefully, but still had edge and fun with it. I mean, not saying portray that as a fun thing, obviously, but I mean you're having fun making the project. Um, it could work, but finding somebody that's not me or Gabe that would tastefully want to do something like that. I don't think there's that many people signing up to do that.
No, no, and honestly, I wouldn't even want to. I wouldn't even want to really make that attempt.
I think it could be interesting. I mean, only in the sense that it's like, yeah, you know what happens, but like I would like to see there's something about the law procedural aspect of his story that is interesting to me. And then I think it was Freddy versus Jason when Freddy's narrating the intro and it shows him before he gets burned and it shows him like sharpening the glove before he's burned and everything like seeing him make the glove for the first time I think would be interesting. Because I mean, you can't do that with Jason. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do with a machete? And especially for somebody who doesn't talk. Like, like does I mean, like at the very least, I don't think Elias was a butcher, but even if he was, then it would be a meat cleaver, not a machete.
well, you know, maybe he's out in the woods, building his shack with his machete because he didn't want to get an axe. I don't know. I'm sure. I'm sure whoever's running the show for the prequel will figure out something cool for that. But yeah.
Basically, I'm going at the Freddy origin like it's like a fucking episode of SVU. Throw Dick
Well,
Wolf in there.
and Dick Wolf has a good history. He did the last 3 seasons of Miami Vice, so. Yeah.
the problem being with that is always going to be like, I don't think, I mean, especially if it's a prequel without makeup, you can't use Robert Englund.
Well, that too.
And that's always been Freddy's problem is that's his role.
That's his role, and that's but the great paradox on that one, Ian, is in 100 years, is Robert Englund going to be Freddy still?
No.
I give it I give it 50. I give it half of that, and you're probably going to have a new franchise.
Oh
And
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
he was great in that. You give it, you'll probably have a new franchise, and people will be like, "Well, this new guy is just as good because that's old." It's the same thing that we did with the Wolfman movies, the Frankenstein's, and all of that. Well, that's cute, but that's old. Here's our real Frankenstein, and you're like, I don't think Robert De Niro is our real Frankenstein, buddy. That was
Oh,
good, but it wasn't
ah.
that great. Like I think we're gonna reach that point. It's kind of scary to think about that certain characters like that will mm, they'll remain, like they'll be in the Hall of Fame, but you're gonna have people who are finally going to say that we can move forward with somebody else to tell this story. But the thing is, what story are you gonna tell? Too. I mean, all right, let's remake the movie again, and
That was
let's
my
do it all over
problem.
again.
That was my problem with the reboot that they made, where it was like I didn't have a problem with what's it, Jackie Earl Haley or something like that.
No, I think he did
I, I
fine with it.
I had no problem with him. I was not mad. I mean, obviously I prefer Robert, but I understand the dude doesn't he might seem like he wants to do that forever to a certain degree, but I am not somebody that says it can be only be him. But I all of the problems with that movie had nothing to do with him. And the main problem I had with that movie is that they were fucking with the lore. Like not so much like changing it, but it's like they put it into question and it was very annoying where there was like a good portion of that movie where they were debating like, well, did he do that to the kids or not? And I'm like, why are we discussing this? Why is this the focus of the movie?
Because uncertainty with the story. We were talking about it on Lore Strickers. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
we get that way. We were talking about that when we were recording the Halloween 6 episode. That when you become bored with a movie, it happens seamlessly. That you start looking at things in the movie and trying to figure them out rather than actually taking in the atmosphere of the movie and stuff. Like when I'm watching Suspiria, I don't give a shit how the person got up to the top to do the wacky Looney Tunes Roadrunner ass kill at the beginning of the movie. I don't care about that. But when you're watching a movie that suddenly you start not liking it as much, you're more open to start poking holes in it, and that's a sign that you've lost the audience. And kind of feel that way about the remake because the one thing that throws me off is the bad CGI, and that's what causes a lot of it. I think is because it looks cheap, and you start, visualizing it as cheap, which is why when we did the Thing triple feature, that's a prequel movie that should be on that list is the Thing 2011 because it's actually a good movie. It's just ruined by CGI that looked like shit. And there's your point when you start poking holes into it and everything.
And the problem was too, and this, I was already in my weird New Line Cinema mode before watching the reboot of that. Like I was already well aware of their tactics, at least in their special effects department.
Yes.
And not to say that Freddy versus Jason, that like everything in that movie effect wise is great. I mean, but because there are some things that are cool, but I mean, I could point out a couple of things. But the one that always stood out to me, where I'm like, if you really want a pure definition of what I don't like about New Line Cinema effects, the scene where the Destiny's Child girl, Kelly Rowland or whatever, when she's in the clinic and looking at the nose job stuff, and then he gets out of the magazine and cuts off her nose.
And it looked like shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's it's that type of an effect for the entire movie.
And there are some parts of it that don't look that bad, but yeah, there was a point, Ian, and I think well, did we have it with Hellraiser 4? I think we had it with Hellraiser 4 too. There was a point where everything moved to CGI because that was the new thing. And that was like, oh, we can just do this with computer. We don't have to get K and B out here to get blood all over the floor. Life's good. And it was like, it looks like a loading screen from a Command and Conquer game. And you're like, why did that seem like a good idea? But then there's a counterpoint to that too, though. That we had those bad moments in film for CGI to get good because they used it so often that the technology was able to evolve with it. That's a positive.
Because I mean, like I need to watch like a 4K version of the movie to really look at it. It needs to be 4K, but an original cut, not remastered or touched up, other than the fact that it's in 4K. But
you
I
mean
would be
like a remaster where it is the it is the closest thing you're going to get to the 35mm film print, like the Halloween 4K does, and oddly enough, that Friday the 13th, even though it's a little dark.
I would like to see the OG Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Just to see, like, I mean, because as memory serves, that movie, in terms of its effects, still hold up pretty damn well. I mean, I've never ever said anything bad about that movie, but I would like to like really like, because it's one of those things. I saw a meme today that I was dying, dude. I had to get my wife to stop working for a second just to look at it, and it was so funny. Now I understand. I understand with this joke, I might be the last person that should be saying this. But I am self-aware, god damn it. So like give me that credit.
Okay.
Because it is a teeth joke and I know that my teeth are fucked. All right. So I am self-aware. But it was, I guess somebody was watching a Blu-ray or a 4K of the OG Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a picture of Charlie, and he's smiling. Now, he's got his first 4 front teeth good. But then when you go all past that, all the way back, every single one of his teeth have been ripped out. You just see sockets.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting, and the meme was the last thing this kid needs is a chocolate factory.
Is another chocolate bar. Yeah.
And I was just sitting there. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, that's one of those perfect moments where I'm like, standard definition covered it up.
And I have something to add to that. Put a pin in it for a second. I got to make sure nobody just fell down the damn steps.
I mean, I laughed, but hopefully that didn't happen. The little shark teeth mold, yeah. It's insane. But no, I would really like to go back and see Jurassic Park. Like I think the only effect that I would really want to pay attention to is the scene where they're driving the fucking Jeep and Jeff Goldblum's in the back, the must go faster scene, and the T-Rex is coming at him. That's the only, I mean, for lack of a better term, that might be the only janky effect that I can actually think of. But and maybe I would also, the scene where what's her name? The girl, not purple hair from The Last Jedi, but the younger girl, the sister of the kid, Tim's sister. I don't remember what her name is. But when she's in the rafters or the ceiling or whatever, and she kicks the raptor and it falls down to the ground, I'd like to get a really good close study of that. Those two are the ones that jump out of my mind specifically. But I remember like the T-Rex shit happening in the beginning. was always fucking good. Like when the T-Rex it's raining and it comes, the rain is what helps fucking sell it because it's dark. Oh, for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. Lex, there you go. I think you're right. I think it is Lex. Yeah, for the time, obviously. Yeah, yeah. Um, Justified for the time. But I'd be interested to see how it would hold up in comparison to now. I was talking about the two scenes in Jurassic Park that I would specifically like to look at to see how they hold up is the must go faster scene where the T-Rex is
Yeah.
chasing them. I'd like to see that one because like I said, I think that might be the only real jank one. That and then when the sister kicks the raptor from the roof and it falls down to the floor on its side. I'd like to see that one like as pristine as possible of the original, just to see if it how because like I was just saying the T-Rex coming out of the rain originally out of the cage when the power goes out, that fucking looks great.
Oh yeah.
That's where all
Uh,
the money went.
I think we have the 4K. Maybe we need to fire that up soon and double check. But I assume it's going to hold up because I remember seeing it in theaters, and I know in the theater it held up. And um, I think I watched it on campus at one point later on, and it wasn't a 35 millimeter print. It was just the 1080p Blu-ray, and it looked good. So
One thing I
maybe.
remember, I don't remember what it looks like off the top of my head. I just remember that I was surprised. Um, Now this I think we might even touched on this at one point in another show, but I already know you know what I'm talking about. Maybe not the specific one, but so one of my old bosses when I was in Tampa, he was a military fucking kid. Like his dad was in the military, so they would just move from spot to spot. And
Mm-hmm.
he went to high school in I can't remember he said if it was China or Japan. I'm leaning more towards Japan. Um, but anyway, uh, they lived on the military base, and he said every week they would get a movie and fucking put it on, but to advertise it, they would have to use the Japanese poster. They would have a copy of the Japanese poster of the film, and he still has a bunch like he collected them. He was smart at that
That's
young
smart.
age to fucking collect those and he was showing me pictures of them and he has a Jurassic Park one and it's fucking wild. Like I don't remember exactly what it looked like. I just remember I'm like, that's the fucking Jurassic Park poster in Japan. And he's like, I know.
Oh, in general, Japanese posters, they don't miss. I am very pro Japanese poster. When I found out that the lobby cards for the Tenebrae 4K had
Mm-hmm.
the Japanese versions on them, I got them because the Japanese posters are awesome. All that stuff. Look up Japanese Laserdisc covers. They're the same way. I
Oh
mean, it's
shit.
fantastic.
I think what was it? I was watching fucking John Campia today and he was covering that for like the last 5 or 6 weeks. uh if you were to go to Japan's like if you pull up Japan's Netflix like the top movies that are watched there,
Mm-hmm.
uh 8 of the top 10 for like the past 5 or 6 weeks have been all of the fucking Harry Potter movies. And I forget which movie it was, but it just the little tab that like Netflix has for their movie covers, just the little I don't know I have to go I look at the because I have like a collector set of the movies but it's not the individual covers. But Hagrid in one of the little Netflix squares for him, it looked like they took Hagrid and I forget this actor's name but you'll know who I'm talking about, the dude from Prince of Darkness that's next to the fucking I don't crucify me. I don't fucking know proper terms right now, but it was the Oriental dude. I don't know if you're supposed to say that anymore. I
I don't know if you're
apologize if
either.
if you're not. But you know
Oh, the guy from
the
Tremors.
yeah, the chubby cheek. Yeah, Tremors. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
They made Hagrid look like him. I mean,
Oh,
it's still Hagrid. It's still Hagrid. But like when I'm looking at the little thing I'm like, man, that looks like that dude. And I'm like, did they do that just for Japan?
I I was about to say kind of weird, like China taking Finn off of the Star Wars posters in when they were released in China. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
I get you. The regional that I'm not even gonna excuse that one.
Yeah.
That's bad. But the regional differences for like the way Japan does their posters and stuff is really interesting because their trailers are notoriously bad for giving away plot, but their posters are typically abstracts of what is already in the movie. Like hell, I might let's go down a Google rabbit hole and look up some of them. I mean, there's so much, there's so many cool things that they do with them that I don't. That the closest thing we're getting right now are like the 15 different Scream 6 posters that have come out, where you're actually getting some variances on it, and it's not all that Avengers V-shaped bullshit that is meant to
Actor pyramid.
actor pyramid, reverse actor pyramid that's meant to basically move your eyes down the poster and all of that shit. Yeah, no, the Japanese posters, I don't play that game. And then if you really want a time with the posters, look up the Polish posters and the Ghana, I think, posters. Because the Ghana ones, I think it's Ghana. They have to hand draw them, and they oftentimes have nothing to do with what goes on in the movie. I love it.
I think of kitties don't fight. The thing that always comes to mind when you're like hand drawn, is thinking about the box art for the very first Mega Man game, where the
Mm-hmm.
guy who was commissioned to do that had never seen the game or never played the game. They're like, just tell me what the game's about, and he just drew a cover based on what they told him.
Yeah,
It's like, what the fuck is this? But it's like at the same time, I'm like, there's some charm in that. I don't know. There's something about it I like.
yeah, I agree. I
Yo,
wholeheartedly.
D, what up?
I just sent you the Japanese poster for Tenebrae, but like, um, yeah, that does have charm to it.
Oh, that makes me think of an entirely different thing.
Well,
I think it was, what was it? Was it a Kids in the Hall sketch? But there's an infamous hole in the sheet sketch. Uh, that's immediately what I thought of.
here, let me try a different one from Italy. But you see what I mean though? Like they're
Yeah.
not they play off of stuff in the movie, but they're abstracts from the movie, and they're done in a I think in a much more tasteful sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And go look at I mean, you know what? I'll post it into the chat, but and also howdy D. I apologize. Oh wait, nope. You can't view that because it is in our Discord chat. Hang on. Let me find that again.
Yeah, you should be able to. Well, no, you should be able to. I don't know. If you can't see that, let us know.
But you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like they have a just totally different way of doing things in Japan for that, and I thank them for it because a lot of times I feel like we miss out on cool art because of what the marketing standard is for the West is just bland.
Mm-hmm.
It's tofu without flavoring.
Now, I mean, I'm not saying you'd run into this issue with every movie, but like, I think it's like, I mean, I'm sure there are standards and regulations over there as well, but I know that in terms for like art and stuff, they're a lot more lax in their rules than we are. So I feel that that's also a factor where it's like, we got to make sure everything's safe and tame so it can hang out so everybody can see it and nobody's gonna fucking complain. Um, so you can't have like a poster of just like blood splatter. Um, but no, I mentioned this a week or two ago, where specifically, like when we were talking about the pyramid, actor pyramid posters for like the Marvel movies and shit. It's like I never understood why. I'm like, yeah, do what you got to do, and I know that there's contracts where it's like, okay, it's stupid that they have to negotiate where somebody's going to be on a fucking poster. But I mean, I
Yeah,
know. Oh my god.
those are the that I just sent the Ghana posters over.
Oh, Oh, I didn't even see the Space Jam one. I just saw the Spy Who Loved. Oh my God. um,
But sorry, I had to drop that.
yeah.
Continue.
Um, but I'll never understand why they don't like, yeah, do whatever you got to do to put out your normal poster. But I mean, if they're comic book movies, one of the staples of comics is variant covers. So have an actual comic book artist do renditions of the actors in their role and make a variant movie poster for your comic book movie.
And that would be something that would be a smart compromise for everybody and potentially make a shit ton of money. Why would they do something like that?
I don't know. They've been at this shit for oh my God, I think it's gonna be 5 more years. It'll be like what, 20 years? When did first Iron Man come out? Oh eight? No, it was early. No, oh,
I thought it was earlier than that.
it might have been early. But they're coming up on 2 decades, and they still haven't done that.
When did the MCU officially it did start in '08?
Yeah.
So, damn. I thought it started earlier than that.
No. I mean, oh 08 I think is like it sounds right to me, but at the same I'm just placing where I was at that time in life, and I'm like I really don't feel like I saw that movie because I saw the first Iron Man in the theaters. And so I'm like I don't think I was in that town because I remember what theater I was at, but I'm like oh 08 doesn't sound right. No, that makes sense because I left in okay, no, that's right. But yeah, interesting. Overseas movie posters are always great. Oh, he had now. I mean, I saw these before because I had the collector's edition of the movie, and in the bonus features it showed them off. But he showed me that he did have the Japanese Pulp Fiction poster. And I'm like, Brian, you got all the good ones. You got all the fucking good ones. And he's like, well, they only were able to show one movie per week, so they didn't want to put on bullshit.
That makes sense for a military base too.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, okay, okay. But yeah, horror prequels. Like I said, I think they're a little bit easier to do than just your standard prequel. You need to have a reason to do it though, just like any prequel. Um, Before we close it up, is there anything off the top of your head that you can think of that there isn't a prequel for that you like maybe there should be?
Ooh. Ooh.
Because I mean, I mentioned the Nightmare one, but that could be hit or miss, especially if it's New Line.
And I can't say Phantasm because we kind of got a prequel. Well, it was like Godfather 2. It was bouncing back and forth in part 4. Uh, damn. Offhand, like I can't just come up with it. So give me 1 second because there's got to be something out there that could really use the prequel treatment.
The one thing that comes to mind, I don't know if this exists. There might be. Well, no, that's a well, no, not really. Um, I don't know if it already exists or not because I haven't seen every movie that's ever been made. But and I don't you'd have to have a compelling story, but I would like maybe you could do a prequel to Frankenstein, but it's about the scientist and like the movie ends when he comes up with the idea to make the monster. I don't know what you put in the like in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like, but I mean, dude wasn't like all there to begin with in the movie, you know? So just make it a really odd, quirky tale about this guy that we know eventually makes this monster.
Yeah, that could. I could get down with that.
You know, and although oddly enough, I don't think it would work as a traditional horror thing. Like you might have to make that kind of like a quirky, humorous, dark humor kind of thing, because that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I could see Daniel Radcliffe doing that.
Yeah, I I I would crowdfund that.
Yep.
Uh, I I'm on the fence with this one, Ian. But Rambo, a First Blood prequel that takes place during his time in Vietnam, because on the one hand, you're haunted by the flashbacks that he has in the
Mm-hmm.
original, but you could actually do a very poignant movie on post-traumatic stress and kind of see the evolution and the devolution at the same time of Rambo as a person.
Mm-hmm. No, that's one of those ideas where when you say it, I'm like, how has that already not been done?
Kind of
That
makes me
would be
sad.
that would be a good one. That would be a good one. Um, I can't really think of anything else like I mean, I could think of 1.5 million fucking comic book things, but that's not that's not the question. Um, we'll see how Jason pans out because I slightly it really depends on what direction they go with this. Because like I said, I'm like, if you're gonna have Mongoloid Jason out as a kid, like regularly, that's gonna be a tough sell. It's gonna be a tough sell.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
I'm all for it. I like the idea. I just want to know what exact angle they're going for because it's like that's the $1 million question we don't have an answer for yet. Like we know it's a prequel. Like that's all we know. We don't know, is it Jason centric or is it Pamela centric? Is this before the Voorhees? But that wouldn't make much sense. Unless then you're gonna kind of bring back some sort of supernatural element like they did in Jason Goes to Hell, and like Jason was just an unfortunate destined soul to become this. But that would be kind
Hmm.
of dumb, I
Yeah.
think.
That would be that would be the that'd be the easy route out.
Because
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like what you could if you they were to go that route because I know they kind of did that in Freddy's Dead, the one that had the 3D ending, where he like meets those dream demons or whatever, and that's how he makes the deal. You know what I mean? To come back, and
Yeah.
whether you like that or not, so that's not the question. But it's like I'm trying to think of like what kind of entity would Jason make a deal with, and I'm like, he's not really a bargaining kind of type of dude. He kind of just
Yeah.
does what he wants.
Mm, yeah. I.
Because they were kind of leaning that way with Jason Goes to Hell. He's like, they brought in the fucking Necronomicon and everything, and I'm just like, and then Jason, yeah, and Jason go or Freddy versus Jason. I liked the imagery where, I mean, now I understand it was the dream world, but like that whole thing where like he's dragging the body to the thing and he opens the door and it's just all water and you see all the bodies that he's collected floating in there and shit. Like,
Uh,
there's something I think that's there. I mean, how stupid do you want to go is the question.
and they've gone to space, so they know how to go stupid.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, that would be that would be that would be good if they can figure out a way to maybe work the Necronomicon stuff back into it, because it's not saying that Jason is a being. He's potentially possessed by something within, and that I can you can swallow that pill a
And that
little
would
bit
go in
easier.
line with a lot of the other extended lore that's with Jason. Because, I mean, it gives a little bit more credence to Jason Goes to Hell, where, I mean, in a roundabout way, these people bodies are becoming possessed.
Yep.
And then, as I've mentioned, the 4 books that were written, it was all people who stumbled upon his mask and they would put it on and they would become that.
Which just sparked an idea. Even though the church kind of is a prequel, a demons prequel about the movie within the movie.
Hmm.
How did the mask get to the theater? Who built the theater? That's actually
Yeah,
valid.
yeah, I would that would be cool. That would be I know we would like that. Because you could do a lot of fun things with it because would you incorporate fucking Terminator looking dude with the fucking face? Like
Yeah,
like it yeah, my main question is the movie within the movie because that plays a factor for some reason that we don't know. Like I would like to say that like you could make an angle where it was a found footage film, but it was real, but you see the movie in the movie and it looks professionally shot. So like you can't really. I mean, you'd have to like extend some belief in that. But I mean, it's demons, so
it's demons. You should already be doing that.
I mean, like you gotta have a what was it? Instead of a helicopter randomly crashing through somewhere, just have one of those fucking swamp boat, the ones with the big fans on the boats with the
The
big
rickshaw.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mike's rickshaw.
Yeah.
Have one
Fan
of
boat.
those. Yeah, just have one of them bad boys just show up and they're like, all right. And instead of what would be in there that would be odd because it was odd that the harpoon gun was in the helicopter
Yeah, all
and then the
helicopters
original.
come standard
So
with that.
we gotta put something ridiculous in the swamp.
A blunderbuss
Yeah.
just filled with broken glass and shit. Literal shit, probably, because
No.
it's in the swamp. Oh, that's awful.
No. But anyways, I'm gonna that's all I really got. You got anything else, sir?
Um, I have one thing.
Okay.
It was Severin Mail Day.
Oh, mail day. Yes, yes.
And I'm not going to show the other mail stuff because. Wait, mail stuff is in MAIL, not MALE. I'm not breaking toss. The Years of Lead Volume 2 has arrived
Nice.
with a bonus. A Mel Gibson. Where's that fucking. There we go. A Mel Gibson and Sam Neill Australian movie back when they were in their early days of acting as well.
Interesting.
So that'll be a bonus at some point, but I'm really hyped up about the Violent Streets Umberto Lindsay Thomas Milan collection. It has a John Saxon villain movie in it called The Cynic, the Rat, and the Fist, which I think is a pretty dope title. So, Years of Lead Month is being planned. We'll have some goodies for you.
Yay. All right. Well, like I said, I'm heading out of town early tomorrow morning. Heading I mean I'm staying in state, but I'm going like 4 hours, 4.5 hours north. Um for my Super Bowl weekend. And I will be back Monday. Uh Now that I just remembered, I want to make sure that I'm saying the correct name. Yes, okay. At some point I need to get the schedule from him first, but a good buddy of mine, my French Canadian friend, Retro Game Commander, excellent streamer. Anything you need to know about Mega Man, he's your guy, by the way. Just saying. Um, but he does an annual charity event. He's a big cat person. He loves kitty cats. And when I first met him, he had an adorable cat named Miss Meow. Like I said, he's French Canadian, so it's Miss Meow. um, but the cat Miss Meow was diabetic and had a lot of issues, and eventually had passed. But in Miss Meow's memory, he started an annual charity event that goes to helping cats in various ways. I wish I had the actual charity off the top of my head, but next week he calls it the Meow Militia charity event. and I signed up to help out because he's a good buddy of mine, and I like cats. So some point next week, once I figure out the schedule, I'll post it in the Discord. I will be doing a stream or two for his charity event.
And
So
we will
keep
be there.
yeah. Yeah, so keep an eye out in the Discord for any news about that. I completely always fucking forget to bring it up, but that is happening next week. So I'm just waiting for him to get me my schedule. So that's what I got going on. How ironic.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you out on the charity stream thing, because if you're new around here, I started in charity streams. Ian, I think you did for a while too, didn't you?
I did one for the Trevor Project a couple years back, yeah.
Okay. So, we charity events are fun. They are even more fun when they let you be on a hot mic with Vox and don't get mad at you using every word under the sun to describe the situation going on. So, I don't know, his isn't like that, is it? Like, it was pretty lax, wasn't it? For
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that, and of course helping out at charity for the kitties, because we love our feline friends around here.
But until next time, I'm on the road. Which, by the way, I keep every fucking time I'm ready to sign off, I remember something. This Friday is the Joe Bob special. Like I said, unfortunately, I'm out of town. I will not have my equipment with me. So you'll have to enjoy Joe Bob this one time without me. But from what I hear, this is going to be a spicy one. I'm a little bummed about missing it out. But by the time I get back, the replay will be on Shutter. So
Should I reveal one of the movies? I think we should
you
actually.
probably should, yeah. Because I don't know. I've never seen this movie, but based on what you've told me, I'm like, that warrants a warning.
From what I've heard, it's going to have a "see you on the other side" at the beginning, like Cannibal Holocaust did, for similar reasons. But the one movie that was confirmed, and the weirdest part is the couple that's getting married on the show requested it.
Oh, I forgot that's right. They're doing the wedding one on this one. Damn.
They're doing the wedding. Yeah, you will watch the replay. I know, sir. I know you will. Hell, I might watch it with you. But or they might not have requested it, but they were cool with showing it because it was one of their favorites, which is also very odd. The movie is the 71-minute long Necromantic, and it is a movie about necrophilia, explicitly so in some cases, and it has one animal death in it confirmed. I think came from stock footage, and I hope to God that the second one is a special effect. But that's all I know about it. I've never seen it. It's been on my to watch. That and the second one have been on my to watch list for like a long time because I'm trying to cross off extreme cinema, and this is extreme cinema. But I've heard that it's also kind of dark comedy because it was made to be a middle finger to basically the German MPAA. So I'm kind of okay with that. I just don't get down with dead rabbits. So
yeah. Be warned that that's kind of what you might be walking into.
You are, but I have also been told that Darcy's going to warn everybody before the break, I think, during the episode. But also you can see it coming.
Yeah. And she does the warning during the break before that particular scene. Well, hopefully somebody, Gabe, if you remember to just type it in the chat too. Just be like, "Hey, she's talking about the warning." Pay attention.
I will try to remember to do that because I don't want Cannibal Holocaust Part 2 to happen where it's like I probably should have warned y'all about the muskrat before the muskrat showed up and then I didn't.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, like I said, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy Joe Bob. Like I said, I'm sorry I won't be around this weekend for it. And also, Looking forward to the Super Bowl. I don't even know who's playing. Normally, I'm pretty good about that shit, but I like my fantasy season this year went out the window like fucking weeks and weeks ago, so I stopped paying attention to football. Um, but for those of you that only tune in for the commercials, I heard there's some good ones. There are 11 movie trailers.
Yep.
Now, from what I heard, it's going to be a situation where because I think like for a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl this year, it's like $7 million or some ridiculous shit. It's the highest it's ever been for ad space during the Super Bowl this year. So I believe what they're doing is like your movie trailers are they're going to be the 30-second teasers, and it's at the end. Go see the full trailer on YouTube. So have your phone ready while you're watching the Super Bowl if that's what you're paying attention to.
And that's what most of us probably are because I don't really care who wins this one.
But I do, like I said, I'm guessing we're gonna see Brady as an announcer. That's my guess.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude is probably going to sign like a $300 million contract for broadcasting and make more money than he made when he was in the NFL.
That shit that fucking the Manning brothers do, where they're watching the games together, Gronk's already been calling shit. So fucking get Brady and Gronk doing that.
With Pat McAfee to moderate him?
You're just printing money.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what, y'all hate printing money? Because we're printing money here.
But anyways, stay safe, kids. Have a good weekend, and we will see you next time.
And if you're around, The Spy Who Loved Me will start in 10 minutes.
Oh shit, yeah, movie tonight. So yeah, movie tonight. Later.
Later.